everybody. I hope you are doing well. Welcome to the FF Virtual Arena where we are hosting you today. Today, and I'm actually I'm getting quite excited about this because it's quite possibly the event of 2022 that I am most excited to attend. But we're going to be talking a little bit about. Sorry, Cybos. Cybos, you are a very good event, but this has got something a little bit special that I can't wait for. We're going to be talking about Fintech Islands, which is a big upcoming event in Barbados. And joining me today to discuss this, we have Peter Stoute-King, who is one of the founders and running Fintech Islands and Techstars. Peter, how are you doing today? Whereabouts in the world are you?
Doing well, Ali, and thanks for having me. I'm actually in London currently. So I've been here for the last couple of days and around for another 2 weeks, but I've been spending a lot of time in Barbados in preparation for this event.
We also have the pleasure to be joined by Gabriel Abed, who is the ambassador of Barbados to the UAE. Gabriel, first of all, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Whereabouts in the world are you right now?
I'm currently in Abu Dhabi, moving from one meeting to another at the moment.
Excellent. Well, let's get straight into it. First of all, it's one of those things that Barbados is one of those places that I just can't wait to get there. I think it's going to be a very relaxing, a nice little setup for the But in all seriousness, let's talk about the actual tech side of things at Fintech Islands. What can we expect, Peter? What can we expect to see at Fintech Islands? And tell us a little bit around the background of this project.
Yeah, look, what you can expect to see is an experience different to any that currently exists in the fintech landscape globally. We think we've done a pretty good job of, putting together an event that, is going to touch on the most important trends that we're seeing in fintech globally. But we're going to, deliver the content and make the connections in settings and spaces that are rather unique. So what folks can expect are, having robust conversations about the key trends that we're seeing in fintech in 2022 and heading into 2023, meeting founders and investors from around the world. We've got participants coming from North America, South America, Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, and obviously the Caribbean region. They're going to get a taste of Barbadian culture, which is rather unique as well. And they'll get to see, some folks in the region and around the world that are building some of the most interesting fintech companies, and companies that hopefully, a couple of them will be household names to come. So it's different to anything that currently exists in the marketplace. And we think, we've created a really interesting experience for participants.
Excellent. And Gabriel, did you want to weigh in here? What can we expect to hear from yourself, and why is this event important to the island?
Well, it's important to the island because it's going to bring a different class of persons from around the world and in the Caribbean who have an interest in financial technology. Of course, once those persons come to Barbados for the event, they would find a complimentary island at their fingertips. And that's from beautiful beaches, year-round beautiful weather, amazing people that are very welcoming. And the reality of it is, I couldn't think of a better place to host such an event. So it's kind of a win-win for those that are attending, because on one hand, you have what seems to be an excellent turn-up of speakers who will give great content, advice, and guidance to the audience members. But then on the other side, you have a beautiful tropical island to explore. So it's great to bring yourself and, of course, your whole family, which is, as Peter said, quite a unique offering of bringing a beautiful nation together with such an exciting field, specifically around fintech.
This is what I do find fascinating about the event, and again, there is the entire. It is a beautiful subtropical island, but as a region, the Caribbean often kind of gets almost lumped in with North America or Latin America. And even just from a sheer geographical standpoint, it's very different. There's a lot of different legislation, there's a lot of different rules, a lot of different nations. And of course, it is a a collection of various islands as opposed to one big landmass. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges for banks and fintechs in working in this region as a whole compared to somewhere like somewhere more as an industry mature like Europe or North America? What are some of the biggest challenges for such a sort of island region?
You said it right. In that the Caribbean is made up of several territories and independent nations and offshore territories. It's a melting pot, really, of the world. And with that comes fragmented currencies and systems, and oftentimes the inability to upkeep with technology due to scales of economies which are limiting in these small island developing states. So you would find oftentimes that there's a lower count of ATMs or bank branches for every 100,000 citizens when compared to a developed nation. You would find an unusually high level of penetration rate as it relates to mobile, smartphones, and internet access. But you would similarly find a very high rate of the adult population being unbanked. And the challenge is a multi-layered, kind of like an onion set of challenges, because you get through one, which is, for example, outdated legislation. Then you have another layer below that, which is fragmented currencies and systems. Another layer below that is the infrastructure needed to be pervasive. And then it has all the way down to the chicken before the egg. Does the mobile wallet come before the merchant acceptance before the user? And all of these things combine to make quite a challenging environment for traditional payments in general. It does also provide challenges for fintech, but in these challenges come very potentially large victories in being able to bank those persons, being able to provide new type of financial technology products. And it's important to provide new types of financial products, whether they be in investing or whether they be in payment channels. The reality is a nation like Barbados has been thinking in this way. We have been moving in this direction, given our challenges, which are grand. The challenges that we do face in Barbados and in the Caribbean, and mostly around the world for small and developing states, are much larger than that of developed nations. But Barbados has developed the infrastructure from the level of government-based legislation amendments, from the level of providing the framework for a more pervasive environment. And we do have regulators who are au fait and friendly with fintech products such as blockchain-based technology. So on one hand, Barbados is definitely going to be a dire recipient of these fintech products. And on the other hand, it's wide open and ready for new types of innovations to reach its shores, which can be tested, built, and exported globally after Barbados.
Oh, you said something that I want to come back to, but Peter, you go.
Yeah. Gabriel hit the nail on the head. I concur with him in terms of, describing the region. We often like to say that, it's a region that's, separated by the islands, are separated by water, and that, contributes to, you having a few islands that are relatively small in geographic size and also population size. So, it becomes very difficult to build a scalable business, in such small marketplaces. The region has not necessarily kept up with the pace of change as well, particularly as it relates to fintech. Up until a couple of months ago, I led the fintech practice at Techstars, spent a lot of time talking to founders and investors and corporate executives around the world, both developed and developing markets, and just seeing the rapid pace of change that's taking place in those markets. And then, comparing it to the Caribbean, we haven't necessarily kept abreast of that. I mean, that was the genesis really of Fintech Islands, when my partners and I met up in Miami in spring of last year. And we were, kind of very concerned about what we were seeing as in terms of the adoption of technology in the region relative to other parts of the world, and wanting to figure out a way that we could intervene and get some type of a tech ecosystem going in the region, or at least having it scaled. So you find a lot of small fragmented markets that the opportunity to really come in, build a product, introduce it to the market, and then scale could be a challenge even for the most sophisticated founder. And then if you have to do that across a couple different islands, you can multiply the challenge by 10, 11, 12, 13, depending on how many islands you want to reach out to. So Gabriel was spot on in terms of some of the challenges, and I think market size and market structure is a key one.
Absolutely. I always kind of view the birth of fintech being M-Pesa in Kenya, and that seemed to be something that was created out of that kind of way of sending money from one phone to another. The technology was there in Western Europe, in the US, but there wasn't the need to do it there. And you need that element of need for technology and the drive to actually go and get all these various innovations. So the fact that you can use regions like Barbados to effectively test new types of payment that you wouldn't be able to do in somewhere like the States, I think that's something that's going to speak volumes. Gabriel, I want to talk a little bit about your work as ambassador to the UAE, another high growth fintech region. What's the relationship between the UAE and Barbados?
Barbados and United Arab Emirates have always had, goes way back into the decades ago in the formation of both countries, a very close relationship, and they continue to have a very friendly relationship. And one of the key things that we're exploring within the Middle East is on the frontier of software collaboration, intergovernment basis software collaboration, trading technologies, and working together to generally advance our ICT sectors and beyond. Obviously, there's other areas of focus that come with that, but predominantly one of the larger areas of focus is around how fintech can work between intergovernment relationships in that bridge to ensure that two nations can share technologies, processes, and standards that benefit both countries dramatically.
Excellent. That's a level of no one really kind of works in a vacuum anymore. It is all about that partnership and level of collaboration. I want to look at Fintech Innovations and what some of the sort of consumer-based technology products, what that means to the consumers in Barbados. What's some of the things that you've been working on there, and where do you see the kind of consumer level of technology in the island?
Well, look, I mean, a lot of what we've been seeing come out in Barbados is actually stemming from some of the good work that Gabriel has done with his portfolio companies, and I'll mention a few of them, as we get a bit further into the podcast. But you're seeing a lot of really interesting companies that are building solutions in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space, in particular in Barbados. There's a company by the name of CarryLend that's a peer-to-peer lending platform in Barbados that's done quite well. It's chipping away at the banking monopoly when it comes to providing loans to small businesses and individuals in Barbados. It's recently expanded to Jamaica, and that's an example of a fintech company that started in Barbados, importing a model that had already existed outside of the region. And tapping into a real customer need. What we would like to see with Fintech Islands are not only more solutions that are helping on the lending side, but we'd love to see some products hit the market that are helping folks to better save, to better invest, and also to facilitate easier payments as well. The ecosystem in Barbados is at a very nascent stage. There aren't as many companies being developed as we would like, but that's the reason why we have Fintech Islands. Our goal is, if you ask us where we'd like to be in 2 or 3 years, we've got an ecosystem where more companies are being built across the region. We've got pools of capital that have been created to invest in some of these companies from the earliest stage, from pre-seed all the way to hopefully some growth equity. We've got better relationships between banks and fintech startups, so that they're understanding how to work with one another. And we're seeing a lot more commercial agreements between the up-and-coming startups and the incumbent financial institutions. And we've got a regulatory environment that's fit for purpose, and getting the right balance between supervision and fostering innovation. So we're starting to see a couple companies being developed in Barbados, and across the region, but not enough. And our goal with this event is hopefully to catalyze the founding of quite a few more products and solution-based companies.
What do you think is going to make the conference a success?
I think the way that we've designed it thus far is new and different for the region. We've been very intentional in terms of what it is that we're trying to build. At its core, the event is about economic development and ecosystem development, but it's really about folks doing business as well. So we've tried to get a good balance between, founders, investors, corporate executives, some policymakers, and some regulators. And what we are doing is, with regards to how folks connect and network, we're going to be very intentional about making sure that folks are getting together in spaces and in places that are conducive to them doing business, because we want to know that everyone is left with a better understanding of what's going on in the space. If you're a founder or some other type of partner to the event, you've left there with a couple leads. And if you're a bank as well, you've maybe developed a couple of relationships with vendors that are selling products that could easily be assimilated into your platform. So, we want to make sure that, a lot of business gets done. And we think that we've created an experience where the thought leadership side and the content delivery side is going to get done at the Hilton and in a normal environment for these types of activities. But the networking, the connections, and the business are going to get done in some spaces off the property. And we hope that would increase the likelihood that real relationships get formed and real business gets done.
Absolutely. There's a lot of interesting, not just individuals, but I know a big shout out to Tina Baker-Taylor, who I'm looking forward to her session at the event. But there's also a lot of different types of organizations that are going to be here. Sticking with this theme of fintech in Barbados, Gabriel, you seem to have changed location. What are some of the fintechs that excite you? What are some of the ones that, as soon as you speak to someone, you start bringing that passion about Barbados, that you go, you have to check out this organization here? What are some of the fintechs that we're going to see at the event that excite you?
Well, a big passion of mine is obviously fintechs that touch on blockchain technology. One of the things that Barbados is renowned for, which I'm a bit conflicted in saying this because I was the founding CEO of the company at the time, but was pioneering central bank digital currencies. We were the first nation and a company within that nation that pioneered this subject globally, and has done quite well for itself as an organization, which also helped put Barbados and the Caribbean on the map. The Caribbean right now is the leading jurisdiction in the world for central bank digital currencies. And I believe there are a few blockchain companies at the event that will be speaking towards these key areas. I'll let Peter speak towards those organizations and tell you who's presenting and who's attending. But I am aware of a couple that are focused around the blockchain arena, and building out other tools that are solutions that users are looking for in the blockchain world. I mean, one specific one that comes to mind outside of Bit is a young lady named Kimberly Adams, who launched Bridge Network. And Bridge Network's intention is exactly as it sounds, to provide an asset or a bridge between one asset type and another to allow it to flow between two dissimilar networks. Again, another Barbadian based product, along with the Barbadian based founder. Guyanese Barbadian, I should say, which is to the greater Caribbean's good. The point behind it is there's quite a few of innovative products that are coming out to look out for.
Yep, Gabriel mentioned Bridge Network. That's a company that we're really excited about, and one of the names that I was going to mention. In the CBDC space, Carmel Kadeh with MTech is going to be there as well. She's doing some really interesting work in the space, based out of New York, but with a lot of focus on the Caribbean. Another company that we're particularly excited about and will be, engaging at the event is an organization by the name of Limited Inc., which is a platform that partners with artists, creators, and brands to launch rare physical and digital NFT collections and experiences. And we think folks are going to be wowed by some of the work that they've done thus far and some of the projects that they've been working on. Two other companies that I want to mention, not necessarily based in Barbados, but will be at the event, and you'll be hearing from senior leadership. One is a company called Almi, which is more of an insurtech play that's trying to disrupt the insurance industry in the Caribbean. But what is interesting is Almi is being pretty much funded by a larger insurance company called Guardian Life, and Almi's mandate is to disrupt Guardian. So if all goes well for those folks in 10 or 15 years time, or maybe shorter, given how ambitious Robert and his team are, you won't necessarily be hearing about Guardian Life in the Caribbean. You'll be hearing about Almi, and it'll be a completely digital, technology-driven, much more nimble insurance company than what currently exists. And another interesting company that we're really keen to hear from is based in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's called Unipet. It's a gas station. And then they reached out to us about coming to the event and partnering with the event. For the life of us, we couldn't figure out what a gas station company was, and why they'd be interested in the FinTech event. But after having quite a few conversations with them, we're understanding that they're interested in actually pivoting away, right? It's a big gas station company, lots of customers, trying to diversify its business and seeing FinTech as an opportunity to do that. So they'll come and talk about, some of the embedded finance things that they're looking at with Unipet. And I think it's going to be one of the more interesting discussions that we have at the event, because you're going to see a company that is in a business that's somewhat distant from FinTech, but coming to a FinTech conference because it's keen to pivot in a different direction and offer a FinTech product or solution to its incumbent customers. And that's one of the key, one of the major trends that we're seeing in FinTech space now. The whole idea of embedded finance, where you've got non-financial services companies starting to offer financial services products and solutions to their customers. So, Almi, Unipet, Limited, Bridge Network, those are just, 4 names of quite a few that we're going to have at the event, and you're going to hear about founders building some really interesting companies.
I absolutely adore that. I did not have on my 2022 bingo card that a gas station was going to be speaking at a FinTech conference, but I can obviously see the embedded finance link there. But what I also love about that is it gets people talking, it gets people thinking, and it gets people thinking of things in a way that they couldn't have done if it wasn't for the fact that Unipet were going to be there. No, that's brilliant. I like that a lot. Yeah,
we're excited to have them as well.
Obviously, it's more than just a conference. It is kind of almost an opportunity for all of the delegates, all of the sponsors, all of the speakers, but it's also a showcase for Barbados and the Caribbean as well. Why do you think, and are there any advantages to either building a FinTech in the Caribbean or expanding out into the Caribbean? What are some of the, if I'm Starling Bank, why would I want to expand into Barbados? If I'm Divido, why would I want to expand into the Caribbean? What are the advantages?
It's quite a large list, actually, and one that's fairly obvious when you just Google Barbados and click on images. It's an extremely beautiful place. It's unfairly beautiful. And that's always one of the major perks when one thinks about moving somewhere. It's the environment they'll be in. combine that with the climate and the people, along with the fact that it's a direct port from Miami. You can have direct flights from Miami, New York, London, Toronto, and I believe Frankfurt. So we have amazing coverage as well to the major ports around the world. We have great internet access. One of the few countries in the world, as a matter of fact, one of the first countries in the world to have full fiber optics covered across the island. So if you wanted to move here and set up your business and have a fiber optic based connection for high speed connectivity, you can as well. Our regulators and our government, they're accessible, and they're forward thinking. They're pressing the pedal on the gas for innovation and technology. So it's not an uphill battle to try to converse with our government to move in a direction that's based around using innovative solutions to solve the traditional problems in our market. And then all around, it's just a very safe, economically stable environment. I think it would be remiss if I also didn't mention the fact that we have the regulation.
In addition to everything that Gabriel was saying, Barbados is open for business to the rest of the world, and we've got, quite a few arrangements with some of the larger countries in the world. So it'd be very easy for, a fintech or other type of financial services company to set up in Barbados, and sell its wares and its products around the world. And there are quite a few international businesses that are doing so right now. So, in addition to fantastic, internet access, highly educated population, fantastic weather, good connectivity to the rest of the world, we also have some pretty robust legal and tax agreements with some of the larger economies in the world that allows folks to do business with them on very favorable terms right from Barbados. It's also a very homogenous society as well. So I've always felt it was a good testing ground. So, and I think it would be a place if, an organization was thinking about, getting some products into the marketplace and wanted to test those products within a smaller demographic population. I think Barbados would be a really good place to test products to see, what the responses from a smaller segment.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Gabriel, where can we find out more about yourself, and are you going to be at this event?
I am definitely trying to make my way from Abu Dhabi to attend the event. So that is definitely an ambition of mine. It's quite a far trek, but Peter and his team have put in so much work. As I said earlier, they have such a great lineup that it would be quite unfortunate for anyone to miss this event, including myself. Plus, coming home is always a perk that I look forward to. If anyone wanted to find me, I'm on LinkedIn. Just type my name in and you should be able to find me on that main social media hub.
Brilliant, excellent. And Peter, where can we find out more about yourself and Fintech Islands, and who are some of the key speakers that you're going to be waving the flag for at the event?
Well, Fintech Islands is all over social media. We've got an account on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook as well. So we're all over social media. Folks can go to our webpage as well, www.fintechislands.com. I want to warn anyone going on our webpage, it's very attractive. What we've put together is really, really attractive. So for anyone looking at the website or following us on social media, you are going to be tempted to come to the event, which is intentional. We would love to attract, any and everyone who's interested, not only in the Caribbean, because this was always intended to be a global event that just happened to be hosted in the Caribbean. And so it's reflected in our speakers coming from pretty much every geographic region in the world. And look, we're putting together an event that's not only going to be very informative and very, very helpful in terms of moving businesses along and doing business, but it's going to be a bit of fun as well. We've got some folks from Money 2020 on our team who've told us that it doesn't make sense putting together an event in the Caribbean and keeping folks sequestered in stuffy hotel ballroom for 3 days. So we've we've put something together where one half of the event is going to be at the Hilton, and another half of the event is going to be off the property, and we're going to be doing an island safari, and we're going to be going to the world's oldest rum distillery, and we're going to be doing some catamaran sailing down the west coast of Barbados, which, if you haven't done it yet, it's something to do. I've done a few of them myself, and I still get blown away every time I hop on a catamaran to sail down the west coast. So look, I mean, I think I've been to quite a few fintech events in my time. I think we've put together one that is going to be very, very, very interesting and worth attending. Great content, great speakers, great participants, and great fun as well. So all is welcome. Look for us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, or on Twitter, and come on down to Barbados.
Amazing. And you haven't even mentioned that your Prime Minister's going to be there.
You see, and that's even a bigger sell as well, given how popular she is around the world. Yes, the Prime Minister is going to be making opening remarks at the event as well. Obviously, a superstar on the international stage, just got selected as a Time 100 most influential person. A big advocate for Barbados, probably slightly bigger than Gabriel, but doing a wonderful job of not only leading the country, but leading the world in terms of the type of initiatives that we need to see being rolled out with regards to how we respond to the climate emergency. And those are some of the discussions that we're going to be having at Fintech Islands as well, as one of our thought leadership tracks is around the nexus of climate and fintech. So we should be having some really robust discussions around how fintech and financial services more broadly can contribute to responding to the climate emergency that we have. So more on that at Fintech Islands, October 5th to 7th in Bridgetown, Barbados.
Thank you all so much.